Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the StriveScan MOACAC Explore Your Future College event. So today we have Southwestern University, Blake with Southwestern University, here to present some great information about their college and what you as prospective students can do to find out more information about the school. Before we get started on that note, I have a few housekeeping items that I'd like to go over with you all. Your screen sharing, video and audio functions are disabled. So the only way that you're going to be able to ask questions is through the Q&A button that's right there on your screen. So use that, and those questions will be sent directly to the presenter, to Blake, at any time during his presentation. Your camera and microphone cannot be turned on at all during the presentation. So another reminder, this is just one of many sessions happening, and all of those sessions sponsored by StriveScan and MOACAC can be found at moacac.org, as well as the recordings a week after the presentations take place. So feel free to check out any of those other presentations or recordings. And now I'd like to get it turned over to Blake. So it is all yours.
All right. And thanks, Bobby, for that introduction. I will bring up my presentation real quick. All right, let's go ahead and get that started. Okay, so as he mentioned, my name is Blake Songroth. I am the Assistant Director of Admission at Southwestern University. We are a small private liberal arts university located in Georgetown, Texas. I know that most of you, if not all of you, are from Missouri, so if you've never been to Texas, it's a great place to be, especially in the greater Austin area, which is where Southwestern is. So hopefully this will kind of give you an introduction to Southwestern and all of the things that we offer on campus. But just a brief overview, as I mentioned, Southwestern University is a small private liberal arts university. So we have about 1,500 students. Our students find it's a really good balance. They have the best of both worlds because they have that idyllic college town in Georgetown, a safe community with a really cool town square. But just down the road is the booming city of Austin. So when they need those city amenities, they can definitely go get them. For those who have never been to Georgetown, I have a little slide here that kind of shows you some pictures of the town square and of what you can expect in town. I know it's a little hard to visit right now, so hopefully this will do for the time being. It's also very, very cool to note that the city of Georgetown is powered 100% by renewable energy. And that was actually because Southwestern University went 100% renewable energy. So we have a really great town and gown relationship. We have a GoGeo transit system to help take our students around town. There are a couple pickup locations on campus. And as you can see here, although we are in the greater Austin area, there is a lot of green space and a lot of nature to take advantage of. Again, really making it the best of both worlds for our students. But it's a great town to be in and a great town to go to college in. Southwestern has a really, really rich history in Texas. A lot of people don't know we were actually the first college in Texas, chartered back in 1840, which is before Texas was even part of the Union. So we've been doing this for a long time. We also had 3 of the first 5 Rhodes Scholars to come out of the state of Texas, so we're very proud of that as well. As I mentioned previously, we had the first homecoming celebration back in 1909. As you can see here, this is the original flyer. We spelled it 2 words back then, and it was actually held in the spring. Obviously, most schools now will hold it around football season in the fall. Southwestern does that as well. But it's a really cool bragging point for us to be able to say, you know, this huge American tradition that's celebrated at every high school and every college in the country actually started at a small college here in a small town in Texas. So we're very proud of that. And as I mentioned before, we are 100% renewable energy on campus. We're the first campus in Texas to do so. But it is a hot button issue, and we're really, really happy to be leading the charge against climate change. And so we try to always be at the forefront of education in Texas. And we're trying to do that still today with the curriculum that's designed specifically for the 21st century student. Here's where I think is a good time to stop and kind of explain what the liberal arts is before we go any further. As I mentioned, we are a liberal arts university. It's a very important part of what we do, but I feel a lot of students aren't really sure about what the liberal arts means until they actually get on campus. So I think it's important to point out. And you're going to find a couple of the cornerstones of the liberal arts here on this slide. So the first, flexible curriculum. What we mean by that is making sure that you're not just taking courses in your major, making sure you're taking courses across the disciplines. You can talk intelligently about a lot of different things, and you're not a one-trick pony, more or less. Another cornerstone is multiple perspectives. We like to give our students multiple perspectives, and we do that with our small class sizes. So at a smaller university like Southwestern, the average class size is only about 18 students. So you're not going to be in a lecture hall of 400 to 500 students. It's just not going to happen. So what happens when you're in a class of 18 students? You get to know your professors well. You get to know your classmates well. You get to know their stories and where they're coming from, gaining different perspectives. And that's very important as you move on in life and have to work with very diverse groups of people. And ultimately, the goals of the liberal arts are to develop a certain set of intellectual skills, critical thinking skills, the ability to solve complex problems, and making sure that you are a lifelong learner as well. So that's the liberal arts in a nutshell. I'm going to talk throughout the presentation specifically how we do that at Southwestern, but I thought it would be a good idea to point out. One question we get a lot is, that all sounds good and well, but what are the benefits of a liberal arts education? Why would I choose this type of education, either for myself as a student or for my child if I'm the parent? Not only do we believe it's the best way to educate the entire human being, but it also has some real world applications. So for example, you high schoolers tuning in tonight, you are not just going to have the same job for 40 years, maybe like your parents did or your grandparents did. The Bureau of Labor Statistics said that you should expect to have about 12 jobs throughout your career. So you can see where being adaptable and having these different experiences is going to help you when you have to make these jumps in your personal and professional life. A lot of times with Southwestern students, we also see that when they make that career change, it is a complete career field change. So they are learning how to do a completely different job. And our students are well prepared for that because they're frequently pushed outside their comfort zone on Southwestern's campus. And that really starts with our coursework, that approach to the liberal arts. And we split our coursework into thirds. Hopefully that'll help to make it a little bit easier to understand. So the first third is your major, right? A lot of you have probably thought about what you want your major to be when you're in college. It's going to be your main course of study, where you go the most in depth, where you have the most expertise, and ultimately what leads to your job search or your graduate school search. So that's a very, very important part of the curriculum. What's also a very important part of the curriculum is what we call general education requirements. And you'll see 7 disciplines here. We have all of our students take at least one course from each of these disciplines to give them a good foundation for their education. However, not all students will take the same humanities course or the same language course, for example. So even within these gen ed requirements, you have the opportunity to cater it to your own needs and desires. And the last third is what we call electives. What's really cool about electives is that we don't put any parameters on what that has to look like for students. It's just a space of your schedule that you can fill up with either courses that you're interested in. So let's say we have a student who is a big history buff. They don't necessarily want to major in history, but they love history. So they take a lot of history courses in their elective space, and it really doesn't affect their graduation schedule or anything else like that. We also see if a student wants to double major or add a minor, they're easily able to do that in that elective space and still graduate in 4 years. We have a lot of students on campus who are triple majors or a double major and a double minor or a major with 3 minors. And our students are really, really easily able to do that because of this elective space. And so this is what I was talking about when I mentioned our flexible curriculum. And then we take those 3 parts of the curriculum and pair it with what we call high impact learning experiences. And these aren't necessarily things that happen inside the classroom, but they go hand in hand with what you're doing in your coursework. So for example, study abroad is an example of a high impact learning experience. So about a third of our students will study abroad. 50% of our students will do community service. 100% will complete a capstone, which is a culminating research project within your major. And 2/3 will complete at least one academic internship for credit. And And that's a very important statistic for us. We have the Center for Career and Professional Development on campus. We call them the CCPD. They help our students look for those internships and jobs and work on their resumes and prepare for interviews and all those things that relate to getting ready for the real world. And they are so phenomenal at what they do. They've actually been ranked the #1 career service in Texas and #3 in the nation by the Princeton Review. So we are very fortunate to have them on campus with us. All right, and so, actually before I move on to MOACAC, so those 3 parts of the curriculum, along with these high impact learning experiences, they form our total curriculum, which we call paideia. And paideia is a Greek word that refers to the education of the entire human being. That's really our philosophy here. And if you start to hear the word paideia a lot when you're looking at Southwestern, just know it's our unique curriculum. We are a smaller institution, as I mentioned, which means we are a residential community. Most of our students do live on campus. And so that means, while there is a lot of learning that goes on inside the classroom, there's a lot going on campus. So we know there's a lot of personal growth that happens there as well. And because of that, we've recently started a student life initiative called MOACAC. And MOACAC is designed to help our students develop as a whole person. And you'll see popping up here the 5 parts of the personal mosaic that we help each student develop while they're a student at Southwestern. And this starts as early as making sure you are connected with the right people when you move into your residence hall as a freshman, making sure that you're collaborating with your living learning community, making sure there are clubs and organizations to suit everyone's needs on campus, and also just making sure that on the weekends and on weeknights, there's always something going on campus so that our students really have the opportunity to get out and mingle with their classmates and become part of the campus community. All right, so I talked a little bit about the experience. I want to switch gears and talk about our student profile so that you all get an idea of what the typical SU student looks like. So when we're looking at our student body, we see they're about 55% female, 45% male, about 15% came from outside of Texas, 40% are from historically underrepresented populations in higher education, and 13% are first generation, meaning they're the first in their family to attend college. So you can see it's a very diverse student population here at Southwestern. As far as academic profile, we do see most of our students will come from the top 25% of their class and about 35% from the top 10% of their class. So switching over to tests, we see a middle 50% of the SAT from 1150 to 1310 and 23 to 29 for the ACT. I want to stop here for a minute and just point out that Southwestern uses a holistic admission review. Meaning we are not just going to look at your test score and your GPA and make a decision based on those 2 factors. While we consider those 2 factors, we also take into account many other things such as your essay, your letters of recommendation, your coursework, strength of high school, involvement, etc. And so I say that to convey that we do not have cutoffs for GPA or test score. That is a part of the process, but we're not just going to look at those 2 numbers. So if you're looking at these figures and are discouraged at all, just know that they are not cutoffs by any means. I also want to point out while we're looking at the test score, while in a typical year, the test score is weighed pretty evenly on your application. This year we know that not a lot of students have had the opportunity to really get out and take the test, whether the ACT or SAT, within the last 6 months. Because of that, we want to reiterate that Southwestern is a test optional institution, meaning we already don't require an SAT or ACT for admission. We also want to reiterate that no student should be concerned about not having taken a test when applying to Southwestern. We do not care about testing this year. We are totally understanding of the fact that many students haven't gotten to take it. So if you haven't gotten a chance to take it, do not be alarmed. You can still apply to Southwestern. Speaking of applying to Southwestern, for those seniors tuning in today, there are 4 ways to apply. The first is on our website at southwestern.edu. We also are a member of the Coalition application. The two that I see the most, quite honestly, are Apply Texas and the Common Application. Apply Texas is a great option if you're looking primarily at schools in Texas, because it allows you to submit that application once and just add the list of schools. So it saves you from having to apply to each school separately. Since you all are in Missouri, some of you may be a little bit more familiar with the Common Application. The Common Application is very similar to Apply Texas, except that it applies nationwide, right? So 700 schools in the country plus use the Common Application. So you can fill that application out once, add the list of schools, hit submit, and it saves you quite a bit of time. So the key here is just to pick the application process that is the most time efficient for you and allows you to enjoy senior year and not worry about this process. There are a few deadlines to keep in mind, which is why I would definitely recommend, if you're a senior, to start applying as soon as possible. Early decision and early action here are what we call priority deadlines, meaning we know if you apply early decision or early action, you're very, very serious about Southwestern, so we're going to prioritize that and try to get you a decision a little bit quicker. However, there is a very, very big difference between early decision and early action. And that is that early decision is contractually binding, meaning if you apply early decision, you will sign a contract that says, if and when I'm accepted to Southwestern, I will cancel all my applications elsewhere, I will pay my enrollment deposit, and I'll be a pirate in the fall. So early decision is really just for those students who know that Southwestern is, their top school, 110%. If they get accepted, that's where they're going to go. Early action is a little bit different. It essentially tells us that Southwestern is one of your top schools, but you do want to go through the process with these other institutions. And so that is not contractually binding. And our regular decision deadline to submit all applications by is February 1st. We are going to require some additional materials when we receive your application. You'll find them here. You can self-report the SAT or ACT, meaning you can download the score report as a PDF and email it to us instead of having to pay the testing agency to send it for you. As I mentioned, we are test optional, so if you choose the test optional route, you don't have to submit the SAT or ACT. However, you do have to reach out to the admission office either via email or via phone call to set up your admission interview. So if you don't submit the test score, you're required to do a 30 to 40-minute admission interview with myself or one of my colleagues to kind of take the place of that test score. So it's really up to you to decide, would you rather submit the test score or would you rather interview with an admission officer? It really just comes down to whatever you think is putting your best foot forward and whatever you're comfortable with. It's a lot of materials to remember as you're going through the process. So what we're going to offer our students is what we call an SU portal. And you'll see an example of the portal right here and what it looks like. It essentially is going to tell you which materials we still need to review your application. Once we receive all those materials, this is also going to be where we post your admission decision, your merit scholarship, financial aid, all that good stuff. So you're really going to want to be checking your SU portal on a weekly basis, if not every few days. All right. I want to shift again and talk a little bit about cost. This is not something that I want you seniors worrying about too much right now, but I think it's good to at least talk about it so we have it in the back of our minds. So when we're looking at a total cost for Southwestern for this academic year, we see with tuition, room and board, and other miscellaneous fees, a sticker price of just below $60,000 per year. Here's where I would caution you all and say, please don't make a decision, positive or negative, on a school based on their sticker price. So don't rule a school out or don't commit to a school without going through the financial aid process. The reason I say this is because the financial aid process is a very robust one. And there are a lot of moving pieces. You might not know all of the aid that you qualify for until you've gone through the whole process. And so I'm going to walk through some of the financial aid options and show you why it's kind of premature to look at this 60, because there are a lot of fundraising or funding options out there for our students. And our financial aid process at Southwestern starts with a general merit scholarship program, you'll see that it ranges from $0 to $28,000 per year. All of our students are automatically considered for this scholarship upon applying to the university. So there's not a separate application for this. In your SU portal, we're going to post your admission decision, and then 3 days later, you'll get your merit scholarship as well. And while I mentioned that it ranges from 0 to 28,000, you'll also see that the caliber of students that we have at Southwestern, 90% of our students qualify for $20,000 or above per year. So if you get that 20,000, we see 90% of our students drop that 60 down to $40,000 per year just with the general merit scholarships. And that's just the first part of the financial aid process. The second part is what we call competitive merit scholarships. Not all students will qualify for these. If you look at these, and you can read through and see if you qualify, but for the Brown Scholarship, you have to be in the top 5%. The Dixon and the Gary, you have to be in the top 10%. Class rank is a big thing in Texas. I know it's not necessarily big elsewhere, so if your high school doesn't rank, that's okay. We will just look at your GPA instead. And typically these scholarships had a testing component. Again, with the uncertainty surrounding testing, we are waiving that. There is no testing component for the competitive merit scholarships this year. We also have some Seraphim Fine Arts Awards if you're interested in continuing with band, choir, theater, studio art. There is a pretty cool virtual audition process on our website if you are interested. And then the final part of financial aid is what we call need-based aid. And so if you and your families are not familiar with the FAFSA, I would definitely check in and get familiar with that. The FAFSA is the free application for federal student aid. So you can file that at fafsa.gov. Essentially what the FAFSA is going to tell us is if you qualify for any other federal or state funding, you may qualify for additional Southwestern grant money. It'll also tell us if you qualify for the federal work-study program. Again, that first F in FAFSA stands for free. So it is absolutely free to submit. The only thing you lose is maybe an hour or two of your time. And so I would definitely encourage you to get the best bang for your buck, go ahead and file the FAFSA. And this 98% here shows that 98% of our students do not pay that initial 60,000 sticker price that we saw, which is why I was warning against prematurely making a decision based on financial aid without going through the whole process. So I hope that gives you some peace of mind as you go through the financial aid process. If you're already a little anxious about costs, which we know a lot of families are, and you want to get an idea of your costs at Southwestern, we do have a pretty cool tool that's called the net price calculator. Essentially what the net price calculator does is it will ask you for some basic financial information and some basic academic information. It will then give you a ballpark estimate of what you could be paying at Southwestern. It's not going to be perfect, but we've gotten some pretty good feedback that this typically ends up being within about $1,000 of what the student pays. So we know it's a helpful tool as our families start to budget. All right. And I do want to touch on outcomes really quick before I open it up for questions, because that's the reason that we all want to go to college, right? Is to get a certain job or go to a certain graduate school. We have goals that we want to accomplish. And so 91% of our students at Southwestern will graduate in 4 years. We're very happy with that statistic. It is quite higher than the national average. We know not only is that the best use of our students' time, it's the best use of their financial resources. So for each additional year you're in college, not only are you paying an additional year for college, you're also losing out on those wages. So that's a big opportunity cost. We love our students at Southwestern. We hope they have a great time and a phenomenal 4 years. But we hope if they're coming back for year 5, 6, or 7, it's because they're joining us for the homecoming celebration and not because they're still trying to finish a degree. So 91% is great for us. We would like to see that climb a little bit closer to 100 in the next few years. And when our students do move on from Southwestern, they go on to do some pretty amazing things pretty quickly. So 90% of our students, 9 in 10, are employed or in graduate school within 10 months of graduating from Southwestern. You'll see just over 2/3 will go straight into the workforce, while a little under a quarter will go into graduate or professional school. And you'll see down here in the bottom right-hand corner, some institutions that we typically send our graduates to. We have medical school and law school up here because those are our two most popular pre-professional programs, especially pre-med. We have a pre-med advising center in our Fondren Jones Science Building, which helps students with the application process to med school. And because of that, we have an acceptance rate to med school that's 3 times the national average. So if you're looking at pre-med, Southwestern is a great school for that. That being said, we do send students to graduate programs of all different types, whether it be economics, fine arts, philosophy, business, you name it. We have a student in that graduate program. So the possibilities really are endless. And again, I want to reiterate that this is in huge part due to our Center for Career and Professional Development, the CCPD, which I mentioned earlier, really helping our students figure out the best fit for them after graduation. So pretty awesome success stories here at Southwestern. All right, so I know I just bombarded you all with a lot of information, so I wanted to take this moment to wrap it into a nice little bow with these 4 bullet points that I think kind of reiterate what I was saying over the last half hour. So the first is world-class academics. If you remember, I talked about our unique Paideia curriculum. I talked about the campus community, small class sizes. Everything that we do here at Southwestern is student-centric. Every change that we make is meant to enhance the student experience. And because of that, we've been ranked the #1 liberal arts university in Texas and one of the 40 colleges that change lives. I talked about high impact learning experiences. If you remember, those were things like study abroad, internships, community service, student faculty research, etc. The big takeaway there is knowing that if you attend Southwestern, not only are you attending an institution that really values what you're doing in the classroom, but an institution that is really invested in how you grow outside of the classroom as well. And again, I think that's pretty unique and something that can only be found at Southwestern. I talked about our Center for Career and Professional Development and our top ranked career services. Again, #1 in Texas, #3 in the nation. I think the big message there is, it's very important to have a school that has the right academic fit for you. It's important to find a school that's the right fit, that you feel comfortable living there for 4 years. But it's also very important to start asking this question if you aren't already. Add this to your repertoire. How are the career services? Do I have someone here that's going to help me figure out when my 4 years at Southwestern are done, what's my next move? And you can rest assured at Southwestern, we have some pretty stellar personnel to help with that. The last one is 21st century skills for a lifetime. So this is something that's pretty typical of Southwestern students, is that they're very active and they're very passionate. Our students will not get done with class and go sit in their dorm room. They like to get out and get involved in the campus community and mingle with their peers and see what they can do to just be involved. They're very passionate. We want to help them cultivate that passion. We want them to leave even more passionate than when they arrived. We don't want them to see Southwestern as the end of their academic journey. We want them to see it as a stepping stone towards a really full personal and professional life. And that's really behind everything that we do at Southwestern. And that's the experience that you can expect to find here. All right, so that kind of wraps up my presentation about Southwestern and our programs. Thank you all so much for listening. I will put this slide up here. If you're at all interested in visiting, we do have a hybrid model of both in-person and virtual events. You can find them all here at southwestern.edu/admission/visit. We do have some pirate previews coming up. One's virtual, and hopefully, knock on wood, our December one will be on campus. And we do have on a daily basis, we have daily campus visits, we have daily information sessions virtually, and then we also have select Saturday visits. So plenty of opportunities to get on campus and check us out. I would definitely encourage you, no matter which institutions you're looking at, try to get on campus and really imagine yourself as a student. Even with the limited format, there are still a lot of schools offering this, and Southwestern is offering a very stellar visit if you'd like to check it out. And before I let you all go, I wanted to leave you with some information today. My contact information if you need to reach out. Here's my email. Here is the admission and financial aid phone number, as well as the financial aid email. And then I would greatly encourage you to go to this link right here, admission.southwestern.edu/register/about me. It'll take you less than 2 minutes, but it'll give us information so that we can send you some materials about your intended major, about special visits, scholarships, all that jazz. But you can also feel free, if you just want to reach out to me via email with any questions, I would be more than happy to do so. And with that, that wraps up my presentation. Thank you all for tuning in and learning a little bit more about Southwestern. I will stick around to answer questions if there are any. But other than that, thanks again so much for tuning in, and have a great rest of your week. All right, Bobby, I think we're ready to wrap it up. I don't think anyone has any questions this afternoon. So
Yeah, not a problem. Here, I will get that shared here. So let me pop up just this last slide for anyone tuning into the live video portion. So for those of you watching the video or still tuned in live, when you close out of your window, there will be a link to a quick 4-question survey. We'd really appreciate any feedback you can provide via that survey about the MOACAC Find My Future programming. This was just one of many sessions that's being hosted, so be sure to sign up for any additional sessions at moacac.org. And you can also find session recordings for all of our sessions also at moacac.org. So once again, a big thank you to Blake for presenting about Southwestern University. A lot of great info. And if you have any questions, Blake, if you want to pop, if you can, if you're still on that slide, go ahead and throw up your contact information one more time. And we will end the session.
okay, I will do that real quick.
Just close on that in case. Perfect. So definitely reach out to Blake with any questions that you might have. So thanks everyone, and have a great night. Nice job, Blake. Thank you for presenting.
I appreciate it.